All right, we're live. Welcome to the Dental Marketing Guy Show. I'm Justin, the Dental Marketing Guy. Today, it is a huge honor to have Dr. Sunny on the show. Dr. Sunny has some really interesting ideas on how to improve patient experience and how that can actually help your bottom line in your practice and really help with referrals, help with case acceptance, help with everything, and he's got some really good ideas and actually specific tips. That's what I like about it. Some things that he's done to help with that. We also have my co-host Vlad from VladCostDentalMarketing.com, and we are going to delve right into this. How are you, Dr. Sunny?
Great. It's Saturday. I just had a beer, and I'm doing great. How about you guys?
Very good.
Doing well. I appreciate you taking an hour out of your Saturday to come help us out and do the show with us.
Sure.
So let's talk a little bit about what red carpet treatment is.
Absolutely. So, one of the things that we strongly believe in is that if you want to keep a patient long term, not just for 6 months or a year or 2 years, but if you want a patient in your practice for 5, 10 years, you really got to be able to provide them that red carpet treatment, not just one time, but every single time. That means, from that very first call, when they call to make an appointment, when they call to find out, do we take their insurance or what their insurance is all about, having a smile on your face, having those moments with the patients that other offices may not actually really dive into. So when the patient first walks into our office, we greet them with a smile. We don't just say, hey, here's a medical dental history form, fill this out, take a few minutes to get to know the patients, take a few minutes to really try to understand what their needs are, why they're there, and then take a few minutes to go over some of that stuff and then go into the dental. So there's so many parts to it, and I'm sure we can spend a lot of time discussing each and every component of that, and that's what I'm here to discuss today.
Awesome. I was actually just speaking to a dentist, and I was trying to convince them to start marketing towards a wealthier demographic in their area. So their location is located in an area that's not as nice as where their ideal patients live in.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're doing is exactly what I'm trying to get them to do, and I'm essentially convince them and let them know that, hey, the way that you get this demographic in your practice is to treat them like $1 million. Because they're worth $1 million. Most of them are millionaires, but they rarely get the $1 million treatment anywhere they go, or the red carpet treatment. And I think that stands for most people. And I think that is what you're doing, Dr. Sunny, is a great way to really retain high-end patients, especially for dentists that aren't located, or dentists in metro areas to where one neighborhood could be great, one neighborhood next to it might not be. It's a great way to attract and retain those high-end patients. What caused you to start the red carpet treatment?
Well, one of the things we truly believe in is we treat anyone, from people that have lots of money to people that don't have any, and
Yeah.
we treat each and every patient with that same level of respect. We're not basing our treatment on how much money they have, but what their true needs are. Of course, finances play a big role in all of that. So once the patient, once you get to know the patient, once they let us know what their desires are, what their financial situation is, then you can cater that treatment to them. But each and every patient deserves to really get the best treatment possible. Once, before I go into some of the details, I just remember this one patient of mine from when I was an associate a few years ago. He came in I think we saw him park his car out there, like a very just beat up old Toyota Corolla, and he just had long hair, just didn't really smell the best, and just didn't have the nicest clothes and all that kind of stuff. you start looking in his mouth, and he says, it's been probably well over 10 years since I've been to the dentist. And you start looking in his mouth, and you're like, wow, this guy needs perio treatment. He needs a lot of fillings, a lot of crowns, and that kind of stuff. Well, we still did the same thing. We didn't base our treatment plan on what he was wearing or what he had, what he was driving, and that kind of stuff, or how he smelled, or how he talked, and that kind of stuff. And once we started talking about his needs, he says, I really want to get established as a good patient. I want to take care of my health. That's what I'm here for. And we go over the treatment, and it was pretty expensive. It was probably $6,000 to $7,000 worth of treatment that he needed in the kind of near future. And we presented to him, and I said, take some time to think about it, and see how we can get this done for you. And over the next 2 years, he actually got every single piece of treatment that he had to get done on his treatment plan. Everything.
Awesome.
It took him 2 years, but it was well worth it. So it just reminds me of that story where never to base your decisions on how somebody looks or how somebody sounds or what they wear and that kind of stuff. So when it comes to patients, not everyone that dresses nicely has the most amount of money, or people that don't dress as nicely have no money. So we really try to make sure that we have that clean mind of giving patients what they deserve. Really just going into their needs and wants, and just coming up with a treatment plan that's best suited for their desires.
What kind of impact do you think that's had on your practice at the end of the day? Having that type of red carpet treatment for everyone that walks through your doors.
Huge. And again, I think that red carpet treatment, a lot of times it starts with that phone call. And I want to take a moment to point that out, because, when a person first calls, a lot of times they're just asking questions like, do you take my insurance? Do you take, are you taking new patients and whatnot? So, and that's not the first answer the front desk associate or the office manager gives them. The first answer is really just thanking them for calling, but more importantly, actually telling them about the practice, where we are, what kind of patients we see, and really actually taking about 2 minutes or so and talking about the doctor. I think that is the key point in prepping that patient, that when they come to see us for the first time, they can expect that red carpet treatment, not just from the employees, not just from that front desk person or from the hygienist, but truly from the doctor also. They say, I can't tell you how many times I hear things out of the front desk and the office manager, when you see Dr. Sunny, you're going to love him. He's amazing with this kind of procedure or that kind of procedure. And patients don't know that kind of stuff. Patients want to build that trust. But it's easier for them to build that trust when they know a little bit about the doctor, where he's from, how long he's been here, and they talk a little bit about the doctor that I bought the practice from. So when you tie in all those nice things, the patient has that innate trust built in that they can come to a practice and get the best treatment possible.
That's great. That's awesome. So from the very first phone call, you're eliminating the unknown. Because that's really what's scary about going to a new doctor of any kind, right? Or going to a new service provider of any kind. There's unknowns that you know that you don't know, and then there's things that you don't even know that you might have to know if it's been a long time since you've been to the dentist. It's phenomenal that you do that from the very, very first phone call.
Absolutely, and it's funny that you say that. A lot of people will say it's been a while since I've been to the dentist, and a lot of people think that someone's going to make fun of them for not being to the dentist in such a long time. They think that people are going to judge them for being in that situation where it's been 5-10 years and they're a bit embarrassed. And I think the key is to never make them feel embarrassed, never make them feel that they have a lot going on and it's their fault. We always tell the patients, I'm glad that you came in today. Today's the best day to get started with what you need to get done.
And I was scared after a year and 3 months.
I'm sorry?
I I went a year and 3 months without going to the dentist.
Yeah.
And I actually had an experience where the hygienist was giving me wasn't teasing me in like a fun way, but really a legitimate hard time that I didn't go to the dentist. I think at that time it was maybe 9 months or something like that.
Yeah.
It was only a few months after the 6 month scheduled treatment. It's just because you have a lot going on, and then I ended up moving. And with my move, it was about a year and 3 months because nobody likes to go find a new dentist after you already know one for some of the reasons we just talked about. And it was a year and 3 months, and I thought, oh my gosh, they're just gonna freaking tear into me as soon as we start having that conversation. And no, the dentist was great, she was great, the hygienists were great, and they made me feel like $1,000,000, so I keep going there. And now there's no hesitation for me to go there.
Absolutely. And that's the key. You're not judged for not coming to the dentist every 6 months. I mean, there's more to dentistry. There's more to life than dentistry, for most people, quite frankly. So, and we get that. So.
Definitely. Let's delve into let's start with one specific thing. There's actually a procedure in your practice, Dr. Sunny, where every patient is treated, like you said, it doesn't matter how they dress, it doesn't matter what car they drive. The bottom line is they're all treated with 5-star treatment or red carpet treatment. And can you give us one example of how you do that for every patient?
Sure. Handwritten thank you cards go a long way. When we first see the patient, and it's kind of easy because a lot of people say, you know what, I started doing this and then I stopped doing this, and it's pretty easy when you know that. Let's say you have 4 patients on the schedule, they're new for the day. You have 4 thank you cards ready in the morning, and you're basically going to try to get to know the patient, and you're going to start basically, you write those up the same day they're there. And what we do is we don't just say, thank you so much for coming to this practice and just sign it. We actually write 1 to 2 lines about specific things that they talked about when they were there. They might have said, hey, my kids go to the school across the street, and we just moved to the area. We'll say that in the card. It was so nice meeting you yesterday, and we're so happy that you chose us. We're so happy that you moved to the area. The name of the school across the street is St. I. St. I is a great school for your kids. You guys they'll have great education there. So just tying that into their personal lives outside of dentistry means a lot to the patients. And I can't tell you how many times when that patient comes back for their second appointment, third appointment, they say, we got your card. That was so thoughtful of you to, remember some of the things that we talked about. So that just builds a lot of loyalty. That's kind of what builds that internal marketing. That's what builds that level of trust that they're going to tell their friends and family about us.
Awesome. So from that initial phone call, so that's where it starts. You give them basically a 2 or 3 minute introduction. And then you send the thank you cards after. So what would you say what's the red carpet treatment features during that visit?
Absolutely. So take a few minutes to talk to patients about their needs. Talk to them about the practice. What we do is the office manager will actually a lot of times take the patient and just show them the office. This is where the restroom is if they need something. Here's water, here's coffee. So just things like that you're attaching to that patient. These are the hygienists that we work with, these are the assistants that we work with. So you're trying to get them to know the people that we employ from the get-go. And that's not very common. Very common thing to do is that patient gets here, you give them a dental medical history form, they fill that out, the hygienist takes them back, takes x-rays, and then calls the dentist. So a lot of times we're trying to do a lot of that stuff from the get-go. Sure, it takes a little bit of time. I understand that it's not the most the fastest way of doing things. But we want patients keep coming back. We want patients keep coming back for their recare appointments. We want them coming back for their treatment, and that's just kind of what it's about. It's not about we've got to see 20 new patients a day. That's just not the goal here.
It's hard to measure the return on investment on being friendly.
Absolutely, yeah, and I think it's priceless. I mean, it truly is priceless because most of our new patients are actually word of mouth, from the people that we already see. So you already have that built-in trust from a lot of these patients. They say my mother comes here, or my mother-in-law comes here, or my friends come here, my sister-in-law comes here. So you already have that built-in trust with a lot of these patients, and then it's even better because now you can actually talk about that other member that's just sent them here and just kind of tie the pieces together. We have some patients, some families, when you add up their immediate families, their in-laws and parents and all that kind of stuff, it goes in excess of 30, 35 patients from.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's amazing.
That's awesome.
So there's probably a lot of dentists who are thinking right now, I'm just putting myself in the shoes of our listeners and viewers on YouTube. There's probably a lot of dentists thinking like, well, you know what, that's great, Sonny, that works for you. But man, my staff, they're not gonna write the cards. They're not gonna do this. They're not gonna do that. They're gonna think it's pointless. Who wants coffee before a dental visit? They're already so nervous. I mean, I can just think of all the excuses being made right now by the dentist watching you and thinking like, well, that's great, it works for him, but here's all the reasons why I'm not going to do it. What would you say to those dentists who are kind of going through that right now in their mind?
Yeah, absolutely. People complain about a lot of those things, and I don't think that there's one slam dunk thing that you do that makes it all worth it. It's a lot of small little things that you do. When patients get done with their fillings or crowns and that kind of stuff, especially with crowns, you take impressions and your gets all messy and whatnot. We'll give patients a warm towel with a little spray on it that smells nice, and that's just another example. However, I think it all starts with having the right team, and one of the things that we truly make sure is when I hire somebody or that person's working for us, we make those expectations very clear. You're right that a lot of dentists are going to say, well, my staff isn't going to do this. But when you have systems in place, when you have expectations in place, and you hold people accountable, then it works. And one of the things that I hold each and every single person accountable for is having a smile on their face. And I tell them this very clearly, especially when they're hired, and also, in our weekly or monthly meetings and whatnot. When they come in first thing Monday morning to the last patient of the week, whether that last patient of the week is on a Thursday or a Friday, their goal is to always have a smile on their face. And I tell them very clearly that I don't care if you're having the worst problems in the world at home or in your personal life. When you're here, you've got to put on a show, and that's what it's for. And it's not a bad thing. What simply just means that when you're here to do your job. You're here to serve a purpose, and that's to make those patients' lives easier and their visits more enjoyable by coming to us. And it's just one of those things where when you take on a task, and if you just divide those up in small little things, then you can do a lot of those things and make a bigger impact. So it's not starting out with everything, but just start out with some things. And I'm sure we miss out on a lot of those things here and there, but the key is to just keep trying and not get to the point where you start something, drop it, then start something else and drop it. It's just one of those things where you got to start something, get really good at it, keep up with that, then start something new.
It sounds like you built a pretty good culture.
Absolutely, yeah. And employees understand that. They understand that why they're there. I hear this often. I mean, a patient calls in at 4:30 in the afternoon. They have a choice of basically saying, hey, we don't have anything till tomorrow, or they're going to say, you know what, we understand you have an emergency. We close at 5, but let's get you in right now and try to take care of it. So it's when
That's
you have
awesome.
everyone on the same page, things get done. When people aren't, sharing the culture that you have, when they're not sharing what your mission is, then it's a problem.
So how do you keep your employees motivated to continue to give that excellent service?
Sure. I think one of the things you've got to pay them well. I get that, but more importantly is just really recognizing their efforts. A lot of times we get so used to saying good job, great job, but when you start tying those with specific example, and thanking the employee for something, hey, you know what, thanks so much for taking care of Justin. He was extremely nervous when he came in for his filling, and you really made him feel at ease, so thank you for that. When you tie those thank yous with specific examples,
Hmm.
it means a lot to that employee than just basically saying, hey, good job today. Because then they just get used to hearing the same thing over and over. But when you tie those examples, motivate them by just being spontaneous. A lot of times I'll actually carry these small $5 to $10 gift cards, Starbucks gift cards in my pocket. And if I'm running late, not only those are for the patients, but I also give it to employees randomly. So, if I notice that, some person, one of my employees worked through lunch, say, hey, thank you so much for working through your lunch today. I know you weren't able to get a whole lot of lunch today, but here's some coffee on me for this evening or tomorrow.
That's
Um,
that's
things like
phenomenal.
that.
It's funny. I have a video that talks about treating patients if you're late to do the exact same thing, giving you a $5 Starbucks gift card.
Mhm.
But what I was trying to get to is you probably try to treat your employees the same way you want your employees to treat your patients.
Absolutely, and that's absolutely a key.
I,
Um,
I think what's important to remember is people are people, right? I got my career started in sales. I paid my way through college selling alarms door to door. I've started there. I've done to everything from that to software sales to Fortune 500 and Fortune 1000 companies. And what you'll find is within any organization, whether it's my own or other ones, what you'll find is people just want to be recognized for their individual efforts. And yeah, you've hit the nail right on the head. Treating your employees like that is awesome. And I think doing that has created a culture to where the machine runs itself. You know your employees are going to perform a certain way.
Absolutely, and I think, and that's a key thing is, I tell and we also have a culture of trying to take care of issues. We're not a perfect practice by any means, and we talk about this
Sure.
all the time. Is that we're not out there to create a perfect practice. There is no such thing as perfect practice out there. The goal is that you strive to become better every day. You hope that what you knew, yesterday was more than what you knew the day before, or what you know today is better than what you knew yesterday. And that's the goal, is to have that mentality that pushes your employees to get better every single day. So that's really one of the keys with that. And also, I think it really ties into the fact that when the employee sees you treating patients with that respect and integrity and honesty, they see those things and they want to do the same thing for that patient as well. So it pays off.
And you don't necessarily have like set rules where it's like, okay, here's the procedure. 3 rapport building questions when they get in the chair that have nothing to do with dentistry. I know there's some consultants out there. They're like, here's the rules, and maybe that appeals to dentists, but because it's very it's almost clinical style marketing. It's to use a
Yeah, and the reason we don't have that is because it's a little bit hard to you know gauge that kind of information from each and every patient. As somebody could be very type A personality, somebody could be very straight to the point where they just want in and out, and you just kind of have to keep those conversations to a minimum and get them in and out. There's people that love to talk, and as long as you let them talk, as long as you allow them to tell a story, they're going to be happy with you. So even just reading their body language it makes a big difference. If I notice somebody that has a a T-shirt or a sweatshirt with a sports team, tying in that into their conversation is so you just talk about things that you notice about them. There's times where I've caught myself talking and I'm realizing that this patient's really not into it, so I've got to find a way to just kind of cut this out and get to the clinical part, get them in and out, and that's what they like. And believe me, we have a lot of patients. We just had one on Thursday. We know this guy's been coming there for 30 years. He was under the selling doctor. I've seen him 3 times, and he's very much straight to the point. Tell me what's wrong with me, what I need to get done, and that's it. Just don't. He doesn't want to talk about anything but what's going on with his mouth, and that's just the way it is, and that's okay. But there's people that love to talk about anything and everything, and that's also where you got to try to cut that conversation to a reasonable level so that you're not running behind also.
I think that's one of the biggest concerns for dentists is like, look, this is all great, but if I become the Ritz-Carlton of dentistry, I'm gonna be getting this. It's gonna be runaway time suck. It's just gonna take all my time. But and then also I've had dentists say, like, oh well, this is a cost, this is a cost, this is a cost. But how much is that CEREC machine, right?
Mm-hmm.
And how much time was invested in buying that CEREC machine and researching that CEREC machine? And I mean, if you add up all the hours that it takes to buy a CEREC machine to get to the point where you hand them all that money,
mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a huge investment. And meanwhile, nobody knows what the CEREC is. Nobody knows. It's not even on the website. So it's kind of counterintuitive because compare the CEREC machine, all the time and money that it takes to get it, to a thank you card a la Hallmark.
Absolutely.
That's nothing. It's nothing. And it takes you actually have all your employees sign the card. You all sign it, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Once we write up the card, each and every one signs the card, and it's easy. I mean, how long does it really take for one to sign a card? That doesn't take any more than 5 seconds to do that. We basically will have those cards done by the end of the day, and if every employee didn't get a chance to sign it, at the morning huddle, those cards will be sitting downstairs. They'll sign it, they get sealed, and the mailman takes it that very next day. So we know for a fact that it can't take that long to sign a card. And guess what? And especially when you have families come together, sometimes you have the husband and wife come together, or the mom comes in with like 2 or 3 of her other kids. You're just sending one card. I mean, you're just basically sending a card for that one family. You're not sending out like 4 different cards at that time. So it really doesn't take that long to send a card. But it makes a big impact because people actually will talk about it. And we don't try to customize those cards by, our dental logo or any of that. Just it's a very generic thank you card. It's blank on the inside that allows you to write some, a few lines about what you're trying to do, and then you sign it.
The barrier to entry here is actually, it sounds when you're just explaining it piece by piece, and of course I'm sure there's other specific things you can share with the viewers as well. But really, what you're describing is really easy. The barrier to entry is really low. But mentally, what do you think it is that causes the average dentist to just say, I just don't want to do that? Do you think that there are doubts about whether or not it actually works, or do you think that most dentists have just gotten in their way where this is the way we do things? I've heard that it's, one of the most dangerous statements in business is the statement, well, this is the way we've always done it, right? And so what would you say to kind of challenge those dentists watching to, kind of jolt things and really convince them that, thank you cards, it's not that big a deal, but it's going to make a huge impact on your referrals, on case acceptance, things like that. Is there, or maybe I could ask the better question, was there a point where kind of the light bulb went on for you where you said, okay, this is working?
Yeah, and I think it was really probably a few years ago when I was an associate and we started doing thank you cards, and when patients started when they came back and they said, hey, we got your thank you card, thank you so much for that, no other dentist has done that, that was kind of like the moment I said, well, we got to start doing this with every single patient all the time, so there's really, I think, when you talk about when people are used to doing things the way they're used to doing things is times change, the way we do things has to change. That's one thing that we really strive to accomplish is that, and as a team, not just myself, is that you have to be adaptable to change. We talk about this all the time, that if you can't work with change, don't work here. It's just really as simple as that. I mean, and I can tell you this, we've had this conversation with a few of my employees that, when we gave you the employee job description, it very clearly had the words, this is what you need to do, but not limited to, or not including this, or there's some key words in there that basically means that there's going to be more to it. Your job description isn't just what's written on a piece of paper, but there's, things evolve, things change, and you just have to be adaptable to change. I mean, there's so many things that the guys are doing down the street that we're not doing. We don't offer the CREX, so we've got to be able to do things a little bit differently, because we get those questions every now and then. Hey, what about that ad that I saw for one-day crowns? Do you do those? And to be able to navigate those and explain to the patients, why we don't do it. It takes a little bit of that conversation builder with the patient. So it's just one of those things where I think if we all had that mindset that we have to be adaptable to change, people can be very successful. So that's kind of my take on change, is that you have to be adaptable to change. There's just really kind of no way around it.
Yeah.
I mean, look at your guys' business. I mean, 10 years ago, no one talked about SEO or Google AdWords or digital marketing and that kind of stuff, and now it's all about that. It's kind of like that huge decline in paper advertisements and a huge increase in digital advertisements, and that's changed. And it's just the way it is. I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, a lot of guys don't like it, but we understand that's where things are headed. 10 years ago, people didn't care about Facebook. There was no such thing as that big talk about Facebook. There was no Twitter. There was no Instagram. And Facebook was just starting out. So people didn't talk about those kind of things. But now that's kind of the norm, and people rely on that information. So you have to change yourself with technology. You have to change yourself with times to keep up with those kind of things. Nothing different than CE. Don't dentists take CE?
And it's amazing. I mean, what dentists do with CE, of course, it's required, so that's part of why they do it. But I think the attitude is we need to constantly be improving ourselves. There's so many industries, they don't have CE, and yet the one industry where we definitely have a lot of CE, there is still resistance to learning. It's crazy. When with marketing, it's almost as if I think some dentists are saying that if I do this, if I do the red carpet treatment, if I do Google AdWords, if I do video production and have a nice website, well, if I have to do that, then I'm just not a good dentist clinically. But the truth is, nobody knows. Nobody knows if you're a good dentist, and the marketing is all there is. That's
right.
All there is how you treat them, how they feel in the chair, before, during, and after.
Right, and I think it's, obviously it's very important to provide excellent care. There's no doubt about that. I wouldn't want to work on my patients and have a great reputation but not be able to provide excellent dental care, because sooner than later that's going to catch up with you. But to just focus on the clinical care and not worry about all the other aspects of dentistry is just silly, because patients, you're right, patients don't know. Patients don't know what a margin looks like, or what a we get all very specific on shades of crowns or the materials and all that kind of stuff. Patients don't know that kind of stuff, but what they do know is how were they treated when they were there, how were they treated when they were in that chair. not just from the dentist, but also his staff or her staff. So yeah, there's more to just clinical care, and people realize it, and they just sometimes it's hard to act on that information.
I think it's what's so tough is the 25 years ago, when websites were first, when the internet was first busting out, dentists really didn't have websites until what, 15 years ago?
Sure.
Kind of a faux pas, to have a website, and now you're taking a role that used to be very focused, a lot of focus on clinical and very little focus on the actual marketing and advertising and the business of getting patients in and bringing them back in. But now that part has grown tremendously. Now you have to have a website. Now you have to do some type of marketing advertising. Now you have to, the role of owning a dental practice has so much more information that you have to do than it did, 20 years ago. It really, you have to do a lot more to stay competitive.
Absolutely, I agree. There's no doubt in that, and I think a lot of people, just get kind of hung up on the fact that they have to spend lots of money to do that. But there is some initial investment. However, those small little things don't cost a lot of money. It just costs a little bit of your time and dedication to just making it happen. And when you realize that when you have kind of mastered some of those systems, it really doesn't take a whole lot of time. It just takes that practice to be able to hold a conversation with the patient, to be able to just kind of read the body language and just getting it done. Same thing with, somebody told my front desk, and I thought that was the best tip, before you answer the phone, actually smile big and then pick up the phone and say whatever you're going to say.
People can hear you smile.
Yeah, and she started doing that, and it was amazing. So just small little things like that just make up a bigger impact on your bottom line. It really does.
Awesome. Dr. Sunny, I appreciate you coming on the show. You actually touched a little bit on what we're going to be talking about a future episode. It's going to be the dental dream, the $1 million practice coming back again. Sure. So it's a really good lead on.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for having me. I appreciate the opportunity to do this.
Awesome. And Dr. Sun, can you tell us where you're located again and the name of your practice?
Sure. I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio, and the name of the practice is Lifetime Smiles. And the goal is to give these people a smile for their lifetime. So.
Awesome, Dr. Sunny with Lifetime Smiles. Again, my name is Vlad, VladCostDentalMarketing.com, and Justin, take it away.
Excellent. Yeah, I just want to say in closing that I was talking to a dentist last night. He wants to, he's a general dentist, but he wants to sort of pivot towards a little more cosmetic. He was telling me about how in Europe, where they have socialized medicine, dental work is free, and the guys who are private pay, fee for service, obviously they're doing well financially. How does that even exist when you have, quote unquote free public service? This is kind of like a bigger form of insurance. It's where we have the insurance companies sort of beating down prices in dentistry. How does someone become fee for service? It's by doing what you're talking about. The guys in Europe are immaculate. Not only clinically, I'm talking about the fee for service. Obviously, the socialized medicine, it's free for all. But you have the guys who can charge top dollar, even though it's free everywhere else. And if there's ever an example of the fact that there's always a market for high quality dentistry, there's always a market for good patient experience. That's the example right there. That's the model. So here in America, where things are a little more free market, to hear people make excuses like, oh, well, I don't take their insurance, I don't, there's no way I could do these thank you cards, there's no way I could invest this time in people and care this much. I mean, look at the guys in Europe. You know, they're killing it. They're making so much money in a market that they should not be. So I think this is great that you've shared these tips. This is clearly doable because the model is in Europe. That's an extreme example. So here in America, definitely doable. Not just possible, but very likely to succeed very well as you have. So yeah, I love the fact that you got specific. We didn't just talk. We didn't just say, oh, you know, treat the patient right. We actually got into it. You know, if they're wearing a Lakers jersey and they bring you a referral for a $20,000 restorative cosmetic case, you know, you're sending them a Lakers jersey. You know, you're thanking them in person. You're shaking their hand. You know, don't pinch the purse strings. Get personal. And, you know, it's worth it. The margins are there. So definitely can be done here for sure. And so, yeah, thank you so much for your expertise, Dr. Sunny. And once again, that website is lifetimesmilescincinnati.com. And, man, I really appreciate you coming on here, Doctor.
Absolutely. And if anyone, you know, needs to reach me to just chit-chat or ask any questions, you know, feel free to call me. And I'd be happy to talk to them.
Excellent. Cool. Well, thank you to the guest of honor, Dr. Sunny Pahoujah, and my co-host, Vlad, vladcostdentalmarketing.com. And yeah, we're going to sign off. Thanks for joining us to all the viewers. And if you have any questions, we're going to post this. We're going to have the podcast version, and we're going to have the video version will be on YouTube. So feel free to leave comments below if you have questions for Dr. Pahoujah. We can forward those, or for Vlad, or for myself. I'm the Dental Marketing Guy. Thanks for watching the Dental Marketing Guy Show.
Thanks, guys.
Take care.